Thank you for the 500 yen donation, Michu! You smiled at the screen showing your stream. And to answer your question, I should have the next episode uploaded this weekend, so look out for that. You continued reading through the stream's chat, giggling at people's responses until the page was flooded with hearts and animated cats. Though one particular user caught your eye, their pink-colored name whizzing past your vision. Tell Hanta to get his ass on Discord already, you read aloud before laughing. You had promised your friends a chill video call before you all picked a game to play, but it had been over 20 minutes since Hanta left to order food.
Where is he? Don't tell me the guy's jacking off or something.
You choked on your water when you heard Denki's voice on call, unmuting yourself to reprimand him. You were streaming, for crying out loud. He was lucky he was living on the other side of the city, or else you would have slapped him upside the head. Denki was laughing at your reaction, and you groaned quietly when your chat went crazy from the Electric Blonde's comment. You shot daggers towards your friend before picking up your phone, in hopes to know Hanta's whereabouts. Hopefully he wasn't what Denki said he could be doing. You read a few more donations, thanking the respective users who loved your content enough to send you gifts, all the while typing away at your phone in an attempt to reach your raven-haired friend. You looked over to your Discord on the other monitor. Denki had resorted to spinning in his chair with his gaze directed to the ceiling. Mina had just returned from eating dinner, and Eijiro was lying on his bed on the other side of his room. Katsuki was supposed to join tonight's stream, but because of your inconsistent schedule and late start, he had already gone off to bed.
He's still not here?
Mina exclaimed, taking her seat in front of her computer.
Jesus. He probably ordered enough food to feed a country. Should we just start a game without him? He can join us once he gets back.
Eijiro suggested. You looked back to your stream. You didn't want to keep your viewers waiting any longer. One by one, each of you agreed, Eijiro hosting a quick game of Gang Beasts for the time being.
Denki, you're a little bitch. A traitor. A traitor is what you are.
His maniacal laughter rang through your headphones, his character holding yours over the edge. Mina and Eijiro had been knocked off the platform, and after spamming keys for the last 2 minutes, you had found yourself in your current predicament, body dangling over the edge like Mufasa from The Lion King.
Long live the king.
No, shut up.
You cut him off, your need for competition blazing like a wildfire as you desperately tried to pull yourself up.
I ain't no Mufasa looking ass. I am not dying like this.
You were sure your mic could pick up your frantic keyboard smashing, but it was drowned out by your cheering when your character miraculously escaped Denki's clutches, much to his dismay.
Yeah, kick his ass!
Mina hollered, seeking revenge against Denki, for he was the one who had knocked her off in the beginning of the round. You clicked buttons around, your character flailing its arms and trying to knock Denki unconscious. But the poor little blob was running around the platform, refusing to meet your fury.
Fight me like a man, Denki!
You challenged, earning a whine from the blonde. Your gaze darted to your chat for a split second, and you smiled at the multiple viewers cheering you on, while some others took Denki's side. From the panic screeching of your wuss of a friend, you heard a faint click before Mina piped up.
Is Hanta finally here?
You saw a figure appear in the corner of your eye, Hanta sitting in front of his PC with an apologetic grin.
Jeez, there you are! Was your food delayed or something?
Mina exclaimed, leaning closer to her webcam.
Nah, it arrived early actually. I just went out for some air afterwards.
He replied, pulling up your stream on one tab. He laughed at your viewers, freaking out over his presence, casually greeting a few. Glad you could finally join us, hun, you said before bursting into laughter, pulling one of your headphones from your ear when a loud
"Fuck!"
flew out of Denki's mouth. You had won that round, and all it took was Denki misclicking and flinging himself off the map. You stuck your tongue out at your Discord, where Denki was leaning back on his chair in defeat. He was mumbling about his game lagging, and how he was going to beat you in your next match. You shook your head in pity, taking a victory sip of your water. Eijiro started a new game, now with Hanta present, and the group was currently waiting in the lobby while the redhead excused himself, apparently to calm his dog. Seems to be a slow stream tonight, huh? You commented, skimming through your chat. Sorry, everyone. Mina seemed to perk up from her seat.
Well, now that Hanta's here, I'd like to know why he's been smiling stupid since he got online.
You furrowed your brows, looking over at the Hanta, who was dazed out of his mind. He wore his usual smile, but after having known the guy for years, you could tell there was something different about it.
Must be because of that neighbor he's been chatting up lately.
Denki answered. You watched as Hanta's face immediately fell, stumbling over his words with hands moving frantically, which only seemed to prove Denki's statement true.
Hey, man, it's not like that.
The man struggled to find the right words, causing him to bury his face in his hands. Your heart dropped, but you hid it as you busied yourself with your stream. Viewers were losing their minds, shook to the bone and wondering if Hanta's single man status was finally going to change. There were mixed responses. A lot of people were excited over it, a few were angry, while some were severely in denial. You hated to admit it, but you were one of those people. You had harbored feelings for the dark-haired man for as long as you could remember. And seeing how unbelievably flustered Hanta was at the mention of his neighbor caused an ache in your chest. The conversation was left at that, Ajiro returning and starting the game. But despite how much you tried, you just couldn't focus. It was late into the night, and you spent the last remaining minutes of your stream reading donations, subscriptions, comments, and generally spending time with your viewers. The heat of Hanta's love life thankfully subsided by the time you ended the stream, but you sighed once more at the thought. Your body was heavy, but your mind was running amok, refusing to listen as it continued to replay that stupid smile of your crush. You decided to put your heavily conscious mind to work and attempt to distract an exhausted enough to pass out. You briefly stretched before opening your motivational playlist and editing software. You seriously had to stop putting off your editing. 30 minutes passed like a breeze, reaching almost a third of the way through your video. You cropped parts of your recording, giggling at certain points and cringing at the rest, adding the necessary effects and music once you were satisfied. You could feel your stomach grumble, but the desire to finish your project took over your need for food. You heard a peculiar... Then all of a sudden...
You should probably take a break. I can hear your stomach from here.
You visibly jumped at the sudden intrusion of a voice, pausing your music and turning to your other monitor. In popped Hanta, joining you in the group's voice channel that you somehow forgot to leave. Jesus Christ, man! Don't do that! You let out a heavy sigh, clutching at your chest. Fucking hell.
Sorry. Didn't think I would scare you.
He had turned his webcam on, and he was smirking. You shook your head, hiding your smile as you turned back to your work. Even the sight of him alone had you smitten. You couldn't stay mad at him. You're an ass.
What are you doing up?
He asked, looking past your playful insult. You told him you were editing your most recent recording, still hyper-fixated on the task at hand. You didn't mention the fact that your feelings for him were the main reason why insomnia was kicking your butt.
And when was the last time you ate?
He asked. You stopped for a moment, pondering his question.
I don't like that silence.
I'll get food eventually, you answered.
Not sure I can trust that.
You didn't answer him the second time, unmoving from your position in your chair. You didn't care that your stomach was still growling, but the way Hanta sighed at the sound made it clear that he did.
Don't make me take matters into my own hands.
You only hummed in response, eyes glued to the screen before you. Hanta was certain you were barely listening to a word he was saying, and an idea came to mind. If you weren't going to make an effort to feed yourself, then he will. He wasn't going to let you go hungry on his watch.
You down for McDonald's?
He asked with a sly grin. You hummed again.
The usual burger and nuggies?
Another hum.
Bet. Give me 20.
He left the call after that. The sound of his departure snapped you back from your productive trance, your brain now registering what he said. Hanta, no! You spoke more to yourself, launching over to your phone. Immediately finding the man's contact, you typed a frantic message telling him not to waste his money on you. You loved the man, there was no doubt about that. But for God's sake, he lived on the other side of the city. Buying you food only to drop it off and leave right after was not worth the travel. But that didn't mean you hated the idea. It wasn't a surprise when he didn't reply, your message left unread and glaring tauntingly at you. A defeated sigh escaped as you gave in, tossing your phone aside, neglecting the rest of your work and getting ready for the night. Hanta wasn't known for his punctuality, but you wouldn't hold it against him either. You had changed into comfier clothes and booted up Animal Crossing, in the middle of catching fish when the sound of your doorbell caused you to jump. You bounded over to the door, and the moment you cracked it open, you were greeted by a paper bag in your face. Delivery for the gremlin who won't eat. And here he was, a solid 20 minutes later with a large paper bag and drinks in hand, the golden arches of the fast food logo incredibly enticing. You had to admit, seeing Hanta's triangular smile in person was infinitely better than through his screen. You didn't have to do this, you dweeb, you said with a pout. He huffed out a laugh, chest heaving and catching his breath. The sound made you concerned. Don't tell me you ran all the way here or something. His eyes crinkled as he laughed again. What exactly do you take me for? Of course I didn't. A small sigh of relief left your mouth as Hanta ruffled your hair. I swung here. That sigh quickly turned into a groan. Of course he did. No need for cars or trains when you got tape-producing elbows to get you through the city. Convenience over practicality, you presumed. You're inconceivable sometimes, you know. You made your way to the kitchen with the paper bag, Hanta following and paying no mind to your statement, merely brushing it off with a wave of his hand. But you love that about me, don't you? You felt your heart leap, and you prayed he didn't notice the falter in your step when you kept your back to him. The impulsive decisions, like bringing you food at almost 3 in the morning. I wouldn't push your luck this time around. You applauded your voice for not breaking, reaching into the paper bag and snagging the large container of fries. You were more than happy to focus your attention on the crispy goodness than on the obvious teasing expression on your friend's face, reaching up and flicking his forehead without batting an eye. Although, you were grateful that Hanta would perform such a feat for you, swinging across the city and to the closest McDonald's just to satiate your hunger. He was a doof. He can be unbelievably extra and a massive show-off. But he was considerate, selfless, and those were one of the many things you loved about him. He joined you in the kitchen, the two of you propped on the high chairs and sharing mirthful banter in between bites of food. It was easy to lose track of time, the night drifting by in a peaceful haze filled with laughter, lively debate, and teasing remarks. You cared not for the potential noise complaints you would get from your neighbors. All that mattered now was the cute dimple that made an appearance every time Hanta smiled, followed by a contagious laugh that had you grinning from ear to ear. You wished every day was like this. Mornings where you would wake up to see his half-awake smile in the kitchen, where you would cuddle up together on the couch, watch movies and play games, to stay up late and pretend like time doesn't exist. You wanted to lose yourself in his presence, to strip yourself of your doubts and create a comfortable space where you could talk about everything. Hanta helped you with the cleanup, tossing the empty containers in the trash as you wiped the kitchen island clean. There wasn't much cleaning to be done other than that, you thanking Hanta as you both finished up, walking towards the living room. Hey. He had spoken up just as you were about to sit down, turning your head towards him. He had pulled out a peculiar box from his pocket, size no bigger than his hand. Do you mind if I, There was an unsure glint in his eyes as he toyed with the box, and you pursed your lips. Smoking wasn't something Hanta did very often, only on the rare occasion that stress was eating away at him, and he needed a temporary escape from it. A sigh eventually escaped you, giving in and nodding towards the balcony door. Only if you promise to talk to me about what's bothering you right after. He smiled in gratitude, nodding as a response to your promise and sauntering to the balcony, sliding the door closed and leaving you in the dimness of the room. You left him with his ministrations as you turned on the TV, opting for a quick game of Zelda to pass the time. But Rivali's Gale and Calamity Ganon didn't seem so inviting when the very man you had been pining for was just meters away. Turning your gaze away from the screen, you were grateful the curtains were drawn back, allowing you a breathtaking sight of Hanta's silhouette leaning back against the rail. With arms propping him up, he seemed to be lost in his own world, head tilted back with a cigarette between his lips. Lithe fingers plucked it away, leaving a trail of smoke streaming from his mouth, waving about in a hypnotizing fashion. Smoking was one of the least attractive things anyone could do, health-wise, but god damn was this something else. You couldn't say when you moved. It felt like seconds when you suddenly found yourself standing by the balcony door, enraptured by the sight of the man basking in purple fluorescent light. He seemed to be surprised to find you standing a few feet away, raising a curious brow. Sorry if I'm taking a while, he said, and he tried desperately not to stare when loose ribbons of smoke flowed from his lips with every word. His demeanor had mellowed some, eyes lidded as they scanned every part of the balcony before landing on you. Don't worry about it. You stepped closer, hands reaching to rest on the railing. You could feel the heat of his gaze, too nervous to return it, choosing to focus on the retreating cars below you. You heard Hanta take another drag, the whiff of smoke reading your senses before fading. That was when he spoke up again. You okay? You couldn't help but snicker. I shouldn't be asking you that. It's not every day you know. He gestured to the cigarette between his lips, to which a small grin made an appearance. It was bittersweet, distant, like a part of him was lost somewhere else. Love is a funny thing, isn't it? He said suddenly, his voice just above a whisper. Your breath got caught in your throat, eyes darting briefly to scan his face. His grin was instantly wiped away. What do you mean? The neon lights caressed the angle of his cheeks and hid away in the shadows of his jaw, conflicting the somber haze in his eyes. He inhaled one more time, holding his breath before smoke tangled with the late night air. When you grow up barely showing romantic interest in anyone, and by the time you catch feelings for this one person, you're reminded that you're too simple for their taste, that you can't compete with the other, more attractive, more interesting people in their life. Hanta's posture grew lax, his head now resting between his arms. It's not a big deal, I know that, but after being seen as that plain-looking, third-wheeling, maybe a second choice if he's lucky kind of guy, I thought all of that would change as I got older. But I was wrong. I got my hopes up too high, and all it took was for someone to tell me I wasn't worth it. Stop, you blurted without a second thought. Your heart ached at what you just heard. Hanta Sero was the best guy you could ever call a friend, and anybody who ended up dating him should be damn lucky. Hun, whoever told you that is spitting bull. People might say that you're not as appealing compared to others, but if they learn to get past that shallow mindset, then they'll learn that you're actually one hell of a catch. You're honest. You put people in their place when they're getting out of hand, You go out of your way to make sure your friends are happy, evidenced by you swinging across the city just to feed me. You're the backbone of our friend group, both the figurative and literal tape that holds us together. Honest words flowed free, no restraint or hesitation found anywhere in your voice. You held his gaze even though your nerves kicked at your conscience, just to emphasize your point and let him know just how much he meant to you. The cigarette hung loosely from his lips, eyes wide in surprise. You couldn't read any of his emotions other than utter shock, your feigned confidence wavering as you let the last of your thoughts loose. You deserve someone who will continue to fall in love with you every time they wake up. Someone who will look at you like you're the most beautiful thing that ever existed. Someone like me. You held yourself back, your emotional walls reassembling as your heart quickly shut out the idea. Like who? He asked when you didn't continue, and you had to prevent yourself from cracking when you heard his hopeful tone. He was vulnerable. You bit your tongue. Every part of you wanted to spill your deepest emotions for him, to end this hopeless pining once and for all. A brief silence lingered, until you felt strong arms wrap around you. The scent of smoke and peaches ran pleasant through your senses as you returned Hanta's embrace, clutching onto the fabric of his shirt. Sorry, I didn't mean to spring that on you, he said, muffled against your hair. Don't worry, just forget what I said, yeah? Your grip tightened slightly when you heard those words, eyes growing soft when you were greeted by his usual smile the moment you let go. You didn't even want to think how many times that smile hid his pain, to brush it off with a simple, "Don't worry," or "It's all good." It drove you insane. Hey. Fingers suddenly cradled your chin, keeping your gaze locked on obsidian eyes, clear and sharp against bright purple light. I promise I'm okay. I faced things worse than rejection and uncalled for opinions and came out alright, didn't I? Despite his attempts to lighten the mood, the feeling of guilt still weighed heavy in your chest. You took his hand in yours, caressing his fingers as your gaze wandered off. But you don't deserve it. You never deserved it. You're absolutely amazing, and I wish all those assholes saw that too. There was a scent in the air, and you felt intoxicated, spilling more of your emotions without your consent. Your tone spoke of worry, of reassurance, and more you were too afraid to acknowledge. They swirled in your chest, a whirlpool of hidden feelings waiting to burst at the seams, and you could feel yourself starting to drown. Oh, don't cry. Hanta's thumb swiped at your cheek, where a lone tear had somehow escaped. I'm sorry. How can I ease your worries, cariño? His voice made the swirling worse, and that godforsaken pet name caused your breath to hitch in the best yet worst possible way. Your chest was heavy, and you were growing agitated. What do you want me to say? To kiss me senseless, so hard that I forget who or where I am? To give me some sort of sign that you... Something finally snapped. That you might actually feel the same way I do? There. You said it. It may have been masked by a thin layer of sarcasm, but you've done it. Your safe haven of many years has finally collapsed under the force of pent-up emotions, waiting for the inevitable outcome of Hanta pushing you away, telling you he never felt the same, telling you that he no longer wanted anything to do with you, and that you only took advantage of his vulnerability for your own selfish wants. Do you want me to? He stopped your thoughts in its tracks. The flame of his cigarette may have been snuffed, but his touch burned like fire. He whispered those words to you, like a silent plea for mercy, for comfort. You swore he felt you flinch under his touch, his words of consent only causing more tears to form in your eyes. I don't want you to do this out of pity, even though this was everything you wanted.
What makes you say that?
He had a soft smile, cheeks flushed, bright red against purple.
I've been waiting for this for years, love.
The weight suddenly left you all at once, replaced with a lingering sensation, a jumbled mess of overwhelming confusion, denial, relief, delight. You looked so sure, eyes dripping with honey-like sweetness that had you trembling. All you wanted in that moment was to be trapped in his gaze, for your lips to be against his, reminding you that all of this was real. That you weren't just drunk off heartbreak and wishful thinking, waiting for the dreaded moment of waking up without Hanta beside you. Your lip quivered, shutting your tear-stained eyes. Why?
What?
Why didn't you tell me? I've loved you for so long. For God's sake, I almost broke down in front of the stream when Denki said you were seeing your neighbor. You paused at the mention of them, eyes growing crestfallen. There was doubt written on your face that Hanta seemed to pick up on.
Believe me, I'm not,
he admitted. He was firm, wiping away the remainder of your tears.
I only have eyes for you, cariño. I was just afraid that eventually you would see that I'm not that special. That I would stay as that friend-zoned freak with the weird elbows and shitty puns. That I would be nothing but...
You had heard enough. Your heart was overflowing, taking over your actions as you grabbed his collar and pressed your lips against his. You loved him, but he was an idiot. A big, heaping pile of small-brain energy that you wanted to smother with all your love. A dense dork that you wanted to kiss until he was breathless. Sparks ignited behind your eyes, plush lips moving with yours when he finally returned your kiss, equaling your passion as he brought you closer to him. You melted, embracing the flames licking at your heart, warming your fingers as they danced against his skin. He was everything you could have imagined. Cheeks flushed pink, dark messy hair, lips kissed swollen with a blissful smile. All for you to witness underneath a fluorescent purple haze. All for you, and you alone. Hey, hun? You spoke moments after you pulled away. He hummed in question, golden streetlights dancing in his eyes. We're both idiots, aren't we? He sputtered a laugh, squeezing you tight.
Yeah. But being idiots brought us to now. And that's all that matters, right?
He kissed the top of your head, and you snuggled deeper into his chest in response. He was right. If it weren't for your stubborn need to get work done and Hanta's instinct to take care of you, he wouldn't have come through. You silently thanked whatever God was looking down upon you that night, for you to be blessed with a tape-swinging dork with fast food at 3 in the morning, only to share vulnerable moments and blissful kisses as you enjoyed each other's company until sunrise. He came through, and you couldn't ask for anyone better than Hanta Sero.